You got the
I have a flower in my hair. I have no idea how I did that.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Expand. Yeah. So I don't know what you guys all see. You probably see her more than me, which is perfectly fine with me. You have a child that's already sleeping, so this is like your alone time and your time to go to bed. But you're going to be with us for the next 20 minutes. How about that?
So already in bed by now. Yeah, my husband didn't know about this, and so he saw my post today, and he called me and he was like, "You're going to be asleep then." And I was like, "Yeah, normally I would be, but not tonight."
Not tonight. Okay, so we'll jump in so that you can get to sleep, because I promised you'd be off at 10:15 and it's 10:41 my time. So let's jump in real quickly. And so, guys, the reason why Rachel Dawn is on right now is she is going to be one of our speakers at our Restore conference, and I'm so excited. And by the way, Rachel, you now have a lot of followers that you didn't have like 20 minutes ago, so that's a good thing. So listen, so let's just jump right in. Let's share with the people a little bit about yourself, how we know each other, because I have shared with them that one of the things that I want them to know is I kind of go mama bear on this community. They have been with me. I have been with them for a year and 8 months. My own children said, "Mom, I give you 6 weeks before you stop this thing." And here we are a year and 8 months later. So we have become very close. Many of them have come to know Jesus on this account. Some of them have bought their first Bibles because they've been here and just learning. Many of them had a really bad idea of who God was. And that was a huge, huge hindrance, because you're not going to go running to a God that you think is a total jerk. And so we fixed a lot of those things. And so many of them are just getting into the word, and they don't know anything about even going to a conference. And so I've shared with them that we're having a conference and we're having speakers, and they're not going to be names that you may have heard out there, but they're names, they're people that I know their story, I know their heart, I know their journey. And you, my child, have had much journey in the last many years. So tell everybody a little bit about us or about you, and just jump them right in if you could.
Yeah. So I've been walking down memory lane this week and posting about our history and our story as I'm just telling people about the conference and what's coming, and, introducing my audience again to you, because, we, did a lot together when I was launching my first book, but that was 10 whole years ago. Yeah. And so, so you and I met. It was 14 years ago. So that was the first time I saw you speak. Yeah. The first time I saw you speak was 14 years ago. And then, so remember, like, I saw you on stage for like a couple years. Like, you were coming in, I was going to leadership development conferences, and you were coming in a couple times a year, and I was watching you speak, and I totally fangirled over Jen. And I just fell in love with her. And one of the things that I said was, the first time I heard you speak, it was the first, like, I had never felt so like naked or exposed listening to somebody from stage, because it just felt like you were describing my inner world at the time. And so I just really admired you. And at that time, just the year before that, my first husband had walked out on me. And so
you were only 25 at the time. How old?
Mm-hmm. Yep. 25. Yeah. 25. And so,
high school sweetheart too. Yeah.
No, we met at a train station in downtown Chicago.
Oh, okay. But but you were young and not expect. Now you were what? You were a good Christian girl doing all the right things, married the guy, and life fell apart anyways.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so all that had happened to me, and I was very angry, and I was very just disenchanted with God and church and religion, because I'd grown up in church. I was, like Jen said, I was the good little Christian girl. I followed all the rules. I saved myself for marriage, and then my husband walked out on me. And so I didn't want anything to do with God. I didn't want anything to do with church. Because I just felt so betrayed, by my husband and by God, that he let that happen after I did all the right things. Right. And, so I saw Jen speak the first time about a year after that. And what happens as a Christian, especially the Christian environment that I grew up in, And especially in that time, things have gotten better. But especially at that time, divorce was so taboo. And so there was a lot of shame around it. And so when I went through that, I just felt completely like a failure, completely like a fraud. And, as a Christian, and I just felt like God would never be able to use me again, that I just kind of ruined my life. And that's when I saw you speak for the first time. And so it just felt like God was giving me this vision of like, well, look what she's been through, and I can still use her, so I can still use you. And that was when he started to whisper that to me.
I love that.
And then it was 2 years later when my brother introduced us for real. He had somehow, if you know, he had somehow connected with you and gotten to become friends with you in that 2-year period of time.
I think he was assigned to be like my armor bearer, the person that like backstage got things for me to make sure I made it to my places on time. Okay. And so I think he was assigned to me like in the back, to make sure I made it to stage on time and got to the bathroom if I needed to. And so he had some ins. Your brother had some ins. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, he may have assigned himself.
He probably did. Yeah. And because he looked official, nobody questioned it. That's
exactly.
You're probably right. Yeah,
exactly. And so I remember him sending me that text that morning and saying, "You're about to get a text from Jennifer Beckham." And I about peed my pants. And then 10 minutes later or whatever, I get this text from you that says, "Well, I need help this morning. Would you be willing to come on stage with me?" And again, almost peed my pants because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be on stage with Jennifer Beckham." And it was like just such a dream come true.
I was doing an illustrated sermon. Yeah.
Yes. And I joked in my post that I was literally a human prop. That was it. But it didn't matter. To me, it was like I won the lottery. Yeah. And it was just so it was just such vision casting, right? Like it was just such this sweet little preview that God was giving me, right? Yeah. And so after that, then you and I really connected and we started getting together. I was traveling for work at the time. I did not have kids at the time, did not have a child at the time. And so I was traveling and I would be down in Jacksonville usually 2 or 3 times a year, and we would always get together. And that was when I was just starting to write my book and get all that together. And again, I've been talking about it in these posts, but like you believed in my voice and that message way before I did. And that first book would have never made it into the world if it wasn't for you. And then you helped me really launch into my ministry and my platform and all of those things. And so that's our history.
That makes me so happy. I've been kicking around a long time, girl. I've been kicking around a long time, and thank you for being receptive. I'm so glad that God could assign me to speak into your life to get you to that next place. And that's what we talk about on here all the time. My fingers say somebody's waiting on you. And it is true. And if you're around long enough, you get people that come up and say, "Hey, I'm here because of you." I think Ray Boltz had a song a long time ago that we're going to get to heaven and people are going to be walking up to you saying, "I'm here because of you. I'm here because you shared Jesus." I think that's so awesome because now you're impacting so many people as well with your first book, which is, tell me the title. It's now what? What's the rest of it?
Yeah. The subtitle is A Story of Broken Dreams and the God Who Restores Them.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
Yep. And so, so then you got remarried. Give us a little bit about your story and then jump in. So Rachel just mentioned her brother that was backstage assigning himself to be my armor bearer. And his name is John. And so kind of give us a little bit. So first husband, gone, done, move on, and wrote your book. And then comes Barry, and tell us a little bit about that, and then jump into kind of where it gets really rocky for you, but you hung on for dear life to Jesus.
Yeah, for sure. So got remarried in 2013, and that it's just wonderful. Like Barry was a wonderful man, and I tell that story in the book just about kind of walking that because I wrote a large portion of that first book is my journey to remarriage, because I just was really confused about marriage and divorce, and I just didn't understand. After everything I'd been through. And so it was what God taught me in that season. And how he healed me, through all of that. And so, got remarried. And so launched that first book in 2016. Then I went on a speaking tour, media tour, all the things. You held my hand through all of that. And then there's a really cool part of my story, which we're not going to really touch on tonight. And it's going to be my next book after this one that's getting ready to come out. But there was in that season, about 3 years after I launched my first book, or I guess two, but anyway, I was sitting down on New Year's Eve and I was asking God what my goals for the next year should be. And God told me nothing. And not like he didn't say anything, like he said nothing. And I went through this season for the next 6-7 years where God completely took me off of the road, off of the platform, off of the stage, out of writing everything. And there were so many things that he was teaching me in that time. He was completely rewiring my identity. There were so many things. Like, it's so good. But like I said, we're not even talking about that tonight. And that
but I want to stop and just say real quickly, you're saying it was so good. But when you're in it and you want God to use you and he puts you on the backside of the desert, it doesn't feel good at the time. You can look back and say it was so good, but at that point, it's just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, well, so let me tell you. I'll tell you a quick funny part about it is that when he said, nothing, right? And I was like, oh, okay, well, like, okay, good. Like I've worked really, really hard for the last 5 years, like getting this book done, getting it out of the world, going to speaking, like all these things. Like, yeah, I can take a break. So what are we talking, like 6 months? Like a year? Like, yeah, I can hang with that God and then we'll be right back out there. And it was literally 5 straight years, like with absolutely nothing, like just absolutely nothing. And exactly to your point, it was so disorienting, but that was the whole point of it, is that he was teaching me in that season. The biggest thing he was teaching me in that season is like, am I allowed to say cuss words on here? Here's what I felt like he was saying to me. He said, I don't give a shit about what you do. Mm-hmm. Like, all I care about is you. Mm-hmm. And so he had to teach me, like, even though all of the things I was doing were good and they were for him and they were with a right heart, like, he had to strip all of that away to show me, no, like, I just want to spend time with you. Like, I love you just how you are, and not because you're performing for me and not because you're making an impact for the kingdom or whatever. And like I said, there was so much fruit in that season. There were so many good lessons. Like, I'm actually having trouble writing it because it was so intimate. And like, when I put it on paper, it just feels so, I don't know, like, it's hard to describe just how beautiful it was.
Well, it's we said that we were going to make this an organic conversation. And so I don't mean to go off just for a second, but you're right that you just said it's hard sometimes to find words for it. And, I'm looking at, I just invited somebody. If I invited you, don't come on. I didn't mean that. Sorry. So this is what happens when you use your finger to scroll. So I'm scrolling to see what somebody said, because somebody wrote, God told you, ?
Yes, girl.
And that's the thing, right? Like, we don't realize that sometimes in the Christian realm, we say things that are so like, what? To somebody that goes, wait, I don't understand. What do you mean God said? I've never heard God's voice. And so you say it so freely, like God said, and people are scratching their head going, huh? And I have to stop sometimes too and remember that sometimes people don't even understand what that means. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to articulate. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
And so you got to learn how to listen. You got to learn to stay close to God. It's relationship. And that means that, sometimes taking the world like you had to for those 5 years and just kind of shoving the world away and just trying to focus on God. What are you saying? So we can all talk about that at another time, and we'll probably get into that at the conference as well. Like, what does it mean to actually walk with God, and what does it mean to actually find your purpose and to find God's voice and to follow that? And it's powerful. So thank you. I just wanted to kind of pause because I know that there's some people, I can feel people going, but she has such an intimate relationship with God that it's like he's a buddy and he sits next to you. But that's what I tell them every night is, guys, this is relationship. It's time, effort, and energy spending with God and learning to listen for him and learning to, and it's an ongoing process. So,
Yeah.
but it can
So-
definitely get to that point where it feels like he's your friend
Yeah.
and he's right next to you.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I think I tell a story about that, like the first experience that I had hearing God's voice. Because again, when I went through that season, so I had grown up in church and I knew about God. I could answer every Bible trivia question that you would ever throw at me. But I didn't even know that I didn't know Jesus until I met him for the first time. And I was like, oh, this is different. And so what I realized was I had religion and not relationship. And so I literally started over at a completely spiritual blank slate. And I described that in my book and what that like tangibly, like what that looked like and what it was like to walk through that season. And if I didn't tell it in the book, I don't remember if I wrote this story before the book or afterwards. If I didn't tell it in the book, I published it on my blog for sure. And you can go read it there. But the first experience that I had that I heard God's voice speaking to me so clearly. Like I said, I tell that story and I think it is in the book. But that was the first time that I was like, huh? And it was like, I heard it in my head. It was a voice, it kind of sounded like my voice, but it was different because it wasn't something that I would say to myself. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I knew like, well, that was interesting.
And I love that you just said that because I say to them often that if the Spirit of God lives on the inside of us, it's going to feel like it's coming from inside of us.
Yes. Yeah. And
it's like, was that my thought? Yeah.
Right. But, and it's happened several times that I'm like, well, I know that wasn't me because that is faux show. Not how I would talk to myself. But also what he was teaching me in that season was, just how to hear his voice. And you said it perfectly, Jen, is that like what he said to show me is like, well, how do you get closer and more intimate in any relationship, right? Like you spend time with them and you get to know them. And so like, okay, I mean, literally like spiritual blank slate stuff. So like, okay, well then how do I do that? So I guess like praying. And then, I mean, just literally talking to God and then listening for anything that I hear that is just seems like it's kind of going in and out of the conversation that I'm having with him. Or sometimes he'll drop a song that I've heard in my head or a different word that I've heard, like something I've read in a book. Like he brings all these other things to mind when I'm talking to him about something. And so that's one way that he communicates with me. But yeah, and so in that season, I had to learn from scratch how to hear from him. And then, then I started reading the Bible and I've written about all this stuff for sure on my blog because it's been this journey. It's been this ongoing journey. And so that was the journey that I was on, right? So I was, from the time that I launched my book over those next few years, I was just growing in depth and intimacy with God. We were building our relationship because again, I had only just gotten to know him in my mid-20s.
I love that.
And so, we're doing our thing and just hanging out and growing closer and closer. And I was learning to hear from him in different ways. I was learning to read my Bible. Here's a big key. I was learning to read my Bible for myself. Because that was another big thing about growing up in the church is I had been told what the Bible said and how to interpret what it said. And I started reading the Bible and going, so if God is real, because I got to a point, I talk about this in my book, I got to a point I didn't even know if God was real. I was like, maybe that's all a fairy tale. And so I was like, well, if God is real, what do I believe about him? And so I started reading the Bible and like for myself and being like, well, that isn't at all what I was taught. Or like, I read that differently than what I was taught. And he started uncovering all of these things. And one of the coolest revelations that I had was actually in reading a different book. I read The Shack by Paul Young.
Yep. A lot of our people ask about that all the time.
Yes. That book literally changed my life. And so in reading that book, so I don't want to spoil a story for anybody, but the main character has an encounter with the three persons of the Trinity. And they appear to him in ways that you would not at all imagine, right? It's very unconventional, very heretical almost. Like God appears as a woman. But that's what the main character needed because he had a really troubled relationship with his dad. So God met him in a way that he would be receptive to. And in reading that book, it was as if I heard God saying to me, baby, all those things that you think that you know about me, all those rules and regulations, all that guilt and condemnation, none of that is from me. Come get to know me for yourself. Mm-hmm. And it was this really beautiful invitation. Because again, reading that book was it just flipped everything that I believed on its head about who God is and how he communicates with and how he loves. That was the first time I understood grace for the first time. So that whole journey, right? Life is good. I'm remarried. Then COVID hits. The whole world goes crazy. Mm-hmm. But it was actually like really a blessing for me at the time that God was already working on on reframing my identity because, you know, everybody, like just everything that we were doing to feed our identities just stopped, right? Like most of us couldn't keep working and doing the things. And if God hadn't already been reprogramming that, I talk about how it literally would have been like a freight train going 100 miles an hour into a brick wall. Mm. But he had already put me in this posture of like, oh, those things don't matter so much. Mm-hmm. So that happened. So I was traveling for work at the time. So COVID hits, I'm off the road for 3 months. This is the longest my body had been in one place in over a decade. And then I got pregnant because that's what happens when you're in your house with your husband.
That's what happens during COVID. That's a lot of COVID, baby. Yes.
Yes. So then I got pregnant.
A lot of death, but a lot of life. Yes.
Yes. Completely unexpectedly, our son was such a surprise, but it was great. And
he has the best name. Tell everybody what his name is.
His name is Samson.
I love it.
And that's a really cool story. Have I told this on my blog? Yes, I have. God dropped his name to me in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. in the hospital, the second night we were in the hospital after giving birth to him. Like we did not know what his name was. And it came in a dream. Like I woke up to just hearing the name Samson. Like it was really cool.
I love that.
I had never had an experience like that. That was the first way God ever talked to me like that. So that was neat.
Very cool.
But yeah, so he's great. Life is good, but actually, no, life was not good. I did not handle pregnancy well, and I had a really, 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 really hard time postpartum. There's a lot that went into that, but literally before everything else happened, I was like sobbing in the nursery telling Barry, like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I just can't do it. I don't know who can be a mom, but it ain't me. Like, I can't handle everything that it's requiring of me. And so I was already struggling postpartum.
It's so good to hear you say that because I remember when I remember the first time that I looked at my child, like I had thoughts in my mind that I never thought that I could have when you're in a very dark and only the women that have been there will understand this. So it's just really scary to even go into that feeling. But when you're hormonal, everything is whacked and all of that, and you're having thoughts, and then you go into this guilt of what a horrible person I am that I could think that. And then it's just this one, and you're like, what is wrong with me? I always see these moms that are holding their babies and they just love them so much. What's wrong with me? That is probably one of the scariest things, because then you feel like you're trapped and the world's closing in on you and you have nowhere. How do you get out of this thing? This is a lifelong commitment forever and ever. And so I don't think that postpartum is talked about enough, but thank you for saying that, because somebody needed to know that today, that there's nothing wrong with them and that they have no idea what's going on in their body right now, and that they need to give themselves grace and hold on. Pain ends because it doesn't last forever. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I just needed to share because that's just so powerful to talk. And these are the things that we're going to talk about at the Restore Conference, Rachel, is the things that we don't talk about. Right. And it's not just for women, but we're going to talk about the things that
Right.
so that we can understand what God's grace looks like, how we can extend it to ourselves, how we can stop beating ourselves up, and how we can realize that this is a journey that never ever ends, and that we are never ever left either in it, that he is always with us and he'll never leave us or forsake us. So
Exactly. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was already having a hard time. And then when my son was 3.5 weeks old, my only brother died by suicide. And needless to say, it was awful. And it was like, and at the same time, I was already losing my dad to dementia.
Mm.
And so for all of those things to be piling up on top of each other at the same time
Mm-hmm.
was like unbelievable in a way that like I still like I have spent time like sitting and looking back at it and like sitting with that version of myself
Mm-hmm.
and being like, I can't believe what you went through. Like, I can't believe that you went through all of that at the same time. Like, it's just bananas.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And
Can I say this too? Because I knew John. And so here's what I didn't tell you, and I should have coached you on this. And it's so crazy. This is one of the reasons why we want to get out in front of people and get over to other channels is on here. We can sometimes get shut down for words that we're not supposed to say. And so unaliving is what we'll call it from this point forward. We're still okay. It's so crazy because I can't even say, like, my husband had an addiction, but we have to call it corn. So we have to speak in vegetables around here. And we have to speak in words that it's just crazy. So it's not called the unaliving prevention. But anyways, that's how, so, but I want to say this because your brother was absolutely the light of every room he walked into. He was the most positive, most life-giving, always. Like if you looked at that man's face, he was always so happy and speaking life into people and seeing the brighter things. And then he was the one that decided this world would be better without him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he loved Jesus.
Such an amazing human being.
Jesus. Yeah, he loved Jesus, and he was like like he lived his life to serve people for Jesus, to tell people about Jesus. And yeah, but also he had a mental illness that was completely undiagnosed. And so, anyway. And so.
And that's confusing in itself. It's like, okay, he loved Jesus. What does that mean? People come on our live all the time going, what happens to them? Are they in hell? Like so many questions, right? And we don't understand God's grace. And just somebody needs to know this, that no one in their right mind goes through with that. And God takes everything into account. Everything. Right. God's grace is so much bigger. And somebody needs to know that today, because we have a lot of members of our community who have children, who have loved ones also. And they're just wrought with this pain of picturing a God that says, well, I always heard that they go immediately to hell. And that we don't understand God's grace. God knows our thoughts before we think them. And he also therefore knows the struggle that was in their mind and in their heart, and that they weren't in their right mind, because no one can be in their right mind to actually go through with that. So I want to point that out, because somebody just heard that. They heard that they love Jesus, so that sows confusion. And so somebody just needs to know right now that God's grace is so much bigger, and that it's not as black and white, cut and dry, as we've always been taught growing up in church.
Right. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There was an amazing book that I read by Kay Warren, Rick Warren's, of the Purpose Driven Life fame. His wife wrote a book called Choose Joy Because Happiness Isn't Enough. And she wrote that, in the aftermath of her son doing the same thing.
Right.
And, she talked about wrestling through all of that a lot in that book, just with, having to come to that understanding herself and like study what the Bible says about it on her own, and just to understand, like, of course, like that doesn't even line up with God's character and who he is. Like, of course, he welcomes those people with open arms the minute that they get there and holds them and heals them fully. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that book was really helpful to me. But yeah, and so in that season, sorry, my security system is talking to me.
I'm glad you said that because I'm like, what is that? Okay, good. Your battery is low, Rachel. Okay,
exactly. Anyway, and so yeah, so that happened, and
you were speaking of the hell that you were walking through, and that how we just go through it and we don't realize at the time what all we're walking through.
Yes, and so in that season, just a few weeks after his death, I read a grief. So God also speaks to me very much through other people's books and other people's words. That is a way that he communicates with me. And so about 6 weeks after my brother's death, a friend recommended A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis to me. I had heard of C.S. Lewis. I knew he was a famed theologian. I honestly was a little nervous to read the book because I still have a lot of church baggage and a lot of church hurt that like I constantly work through. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to read this, but I started listening to it. And for those of you who don't know, that book is literally his grief journals after his wife's death. Just completely raw and unfiltered, thrown open for the world to read.
Wow.
And in fact, when he published the book originally, he published it under a pseudonym because he was so famous and so well known. He knew that the book would be so heretical because he yells at God. He cusses at God. He says, I don't know if I believe that there is a God anymore.
Yes.
And he, it's just so raw and real. And so reading that book was one of the first ways that God started to minister to me in that loss. Just to feel like, okay, like I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. Like this is what this kind of grief looks like. And, it has been, I don't want to go into some. I'm like, how many directions can I go in right now? And like,
You're okay. While somebody's asking, while you're figuring that out, the grief observed, right? A grief observed.
A grief observed.
Okay. Yeah. Cause somebody just asked, what's the name of it? A grief observed.
It's so good. And if you listen to it on like Audible, it's a British guy's voice. So it's super fun. But anyway, it just helped me feel really seen. And I describe this, I'll probably talk about this more in depth from stage at the conference, but, when I went through my divorce, I completely turned against God, right? Because I felt so betrayed and I was so angry. And so 100% I understand why when people go through any sort of hard thing, any sort of trauma, any sort of heartbreak, any sort of loss, how easy it is and normal I think it is to be angry with God and to spend some time having that conversation with him and taking it out with him or even turning away from your faith. That's completely understandable. But because I had spent the last 15 years by that point building this relationship with this person, that this time when what I say is when the hurricane of grief came and just flooded my house, instead of turning away from God, I turned toward him. Because what I felt in that season was that he was right there with me, weeping with me, sitting with me. He was fine with all of my anger and my railing at my brother. I was so mad. The only thing I felt in my grief was rage for the first 18 months. I was so mad that my brother put us through that he made that decision without thinking about us, like all of these things. Like I was so furious with him. And there's baggage and history there. I talk about all of that in my next book that's coming out that tells that whole story. My brother was my best friend in different seasons of my life. And he was also like the hardest person in my life. Like we had a very tumultuous relationship. And there was a lot that he did in his life that affected our family and me personally, that without him considering the consequences. And so this just felt like one more thing he had done without thinking about us. And so, but like what was so beautiful in that season is like God could handle all of that. Like he was completely fine sitting with me in that anger, in all of it. Like he didn't leave me for a single second. I just felt his closeness and his withness and his comfort in a way that I never had before. And again, I tell in the book, and I'll probably tell some of these stories from stage, but like I talk about how he's taken me. I want to find a better word because sounds so cliche, but I haven't found a better way to say it yet. But he took me on all these stepping stones over the last 5 years since that happened. These stepping stones to healing, because Jen, I'm sure you talk about this all the time. I've heard some of your stuff, but like, God, healing doesn't just come like this, right? Like God doesn't just heal us all at once when we go through something like this. Like God heals us one layer at a time, one piece at a time, one bit at a time, right? And it's just, that's the way that grief is. That's the way that grief works. It's peeling back those layers and healing them. So God took me on these stepping stones, and it's all these amazing stories of these ways that I saw him work in my life and just walk through it with me. Just really amazing stuff. Really amazing stuff.
I love that. I love that. It's so beautiful to hear you in such a real and raw way, explain these things. I know that you're bringing so much hope and freedom to people, which is my heartbeat, is freedom, because we're in our heads all the time and we are constantly beating ourselves up, and we always think it looks like something, and we should ourselves to death constantly. And last night I ministered a message on here, and I brought to them the very real and raw of 5 years into it. I just realized that I've been paying penance for my husband's death. And I didn't realize that I just needed to show how wrecked my life still is 5 years later, so I can make it matter. And that nobody would ever be able to say that, see, Jennifer just went on without him. It's so crazy, the mental gymnastics that we will do, and the things that the enemy will bring us, and we will just accept. And because we don't know, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge of the word. But unfortunately, as you said in the beginning, some of the knowledge that we have isn't even from the Bible. It's from people, it's from tradition, it's from other people's opinion that don't even know him either. I always say, guys, if you've got doubt and you've got questions, don't take it to your unbelieving neighbor. Take it to God himself, right? And so I love everything you're saying. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, Rachel, is because I want to make sure that everybody understands that when they come to the Restore Conference in Orlando in September, or Savannah in September, and you're there for those, that everything we're talking about from that stage and from that platform and from that weekend is going to be the real and the raw and the authentic, and that not faking it. Because here's the thing, I've been doing women's ministry and ministry for 30 years. And I got to the point where I didn't want to go to conferences, and I was the speaker, one of the speakers, because it was just like, can we just be real? Can we just say the things? Can we just say, I am not okay? And as you know, our Friday nights are going to be not okay night, which is where we walk in, and it's a safe place to say, I am not okay. And it is okay. And we do it in here, and you've just done that with us tonight. And you've helped our community to truly understand that everything that they're feeling, even if it's unconventional, scary, you're pretty sure God's not happy with it. God is totally okay with wherever you are. It's exactly where you're supposed to be. And God's right there with you in it. And I'm so grateful for all your words. Thank you for sharing so honestly about that. Yeah. It's powerful.
In fact, I'll tell you guys one more story, and then I'll probably hop off so you can continue. But one of the first things that God said to me directly, after my brother's death, it was about 6 months out. And I remember I was just beating myself up so badly, because I was like, it's been 6 whole months. Like, I should not still be this affected by this, right? Like laughably
The
now.
shoulds. Yep.
Right, exactly. But I was like, like, I mean, I understand, like, people, my parents lost their son, and people lose, their children, and people lose their spouses, or like, this is just a brother, like, that should have, like, all of the things, right? Like, I shouldn't be as wrecked by this. I should be better by now in this. This still shouldn't be affecting me this much. And I remember, again, I was sitting on my back deck, and I was just journaling about my frustration in this, and I just had this thought drop in my head, and it was God saying to me, you have got to be full of grace and patience for yourself. And again, that's how I know it wasn't for me, because I was going, you should have your together by now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But his voice was so different. And it was like this, like it arrested me, you know what I mean? And I was like, oh wait, what? And it was the first time that I saw, and I started to read more books, and I started to understand, like, oh no, like, what I've been through is actually, like, really drastic and dramatic. Like, losing a sibling is actually a big deal. Losing a sibling in the way that I did is actually a really freaking big deal. And so, like, I'm not going to be okay for a long time. And it was that settling of that in myself, and just getting that relentless kindness to myself, and gentleness with myself, was like one of the first steps that I needed to take in my healing.
Yeah. I don't, and I love that you said that, because and I wrote it down when you said it, I should be better by now, which would be a great title to something. But that I should be better by now, that's what we do, right? And we don't realize that even on a brain scan, when we walk through something traumatic, it looks like we got in a car accident. Our brain literally shows trauma. And trauma, by the way, is, when we're walking through life, we always think that it's something bloody on the floor, but we don't realize our brains can't even compute what happened. I have one of my closest friends is going through just a 20-year marriage, and just realized that for 5 of the last years that his wife has been having an affair with multiple men. And it was like, and he can't it's like his brain doesn't get it. It's like, and I said, there's no way you can possibly, because you didn't catch him in it, you haven't seen him, you know what I mean? And your brain's just going, there's no way. This person that I love, that's what trauma means. Trauma is love and harm coming from the same hand. And somebody in here just went, oh my goodness, because we don't realize trauma is love and harm coming from the same hand. So it's the bad news it's the horrible tragedies. It's the finding out that your loved one took their life, but it's also in the things that are betrayals and these things that happen, and these ways that we grow up, and we're right in the middle of it. So we don't see it, and we don't realize how much it hurts and how painful it is, because it's like, well, I'm still here. I'm going through it somehow. And you look back, and Rachel, if you could put your life on a piece of paper, which is what I do in grief recovery, you would look at it and have such compassion on yourself. You would go, oh, this explains so much.
Right.
This explains so much. And when we do grief recovery together with my clients, that's what they do. They do this thing called a loss history graph, and they write out from birth to now, and then they look at it and they go, wow, this explains so much. And I have not given myself grace, and I have been shoulding myself. And every moment that I say I should be further along by now, getting grace, giving it to ourselves, having compassion on ourselves. And I often say, what would you say to a little girl or little boy going through something like you just walked through? And they would always say, well, I would run up to them. I would hold them. I would snatch them away. And I would tell them that I'm so sorry that they're hurting. I said, then why don't you say that to yourself? We do not have enough grace for ourselves. And I'm so glad that you said that, because you said 6 months in, you're shooting yourself. 6 months in, your brain is not even computing what happened.
Not even.
There's no way. You're still looking for him to call you.
Right.
I remember it was like 4 months later, I picked up the phone in Dallas when I was on a shoot with my daughter, a photo shoot, and something really exciting happened, and I stepped out of the room to call my husband. He was already dead for 4 months.
I picked up my phone to text my brother last week,
Crazy.
and it's been 5 years, 5.5 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we just God's grace is so huge because he sees every single minute of every bit of our life, and we forget that.
Right.
We forget that because all we think is that God is this cosmic jerk sitting up in heaven, more concerned with our goodness and our badness and our sin and casting us to hell because we don't. This is relationship. He's not even. I've been cussed out by or would be clients that became clients that said, if you're going to ask me to forgive my offender, then F you, right? And it's like, hey, you know what? God's not concerned with you forgiving right now.
Right.
He's concerned with loving you, holding you, healing you, letting you know he is not okay with what happened to you. So thank you for what you've said, because whether it is losing a loved one and going through grief and shooting yourself about how far you should be along by now, or I love Jesus, so that should be enough. Rachel, do we realize that even God said himself that it is not good that man should be alone? And Adam had all of God that he could possibly want and need, and yet God still considered him in need of something else.
Sure.
And so that just helps us to understand, yes, we need God, but we also need one another.
Yeah.
And we need to learn how to be there with one another and mourn with those who mourn and see one another and witness each other's grief and say it is okay to not be okay, even when you love Jesus. So thank you for the truth that you've brought, because it's so powerful that we start to look at God as though he is not a God that is standing over us when we're on the floor saying, get up.
Mm-hmm.
He is the God that goes down there and lays with us until, and even then, most of the time, we're not even getting up on our own. It's him.
Right.
It's him sitting up and going, okay, how long are we gonna sit up before we lay back down? Because that's normally it.
Yeah.
And he's okay with the days we can't get out of bed.
Yes.
And he's okay with the days that we can't even function.
Yes.
And sometimes our feeler is broken and people don't understand that either.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so grateful for your message. And I'm so excited to have you a part of this conference, because it's going to be real and raw, and it is not going to be inspiration as much as inspiration mixed with transformation and restoration that begins that weekend. And Rachel, what is it that you believe that people will take away from them when they leave?
Yeah, and this is my hope every time that I speak or write or anything. What I want most is for people to be seen, and to feel that they are seen and known, that they're not alone, that what they're going through is because any of these things that we go through, because the enemy, we feel so isolated.
Yeah.
And so I think the most important thing is to just feel like, gosh, I'm not the only one going through this. And that's what my heart is for people, that they would feel seen and known and know that they aren't alone. And two, like, by knowing all of those things, and you can see these other people telling their stories, then you get to go, okay, if they went through it and survived, I'm not even saying thriving yet, because I don't even know that I'm there, but like survived, right? Then I can too.
Yeah.
And even if you can't see that far yet, when I'm sitting in the mud, there are going to be people with me.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I love that you said mud, because it's really, really messy, and it's really okay. And it's really okay. And there's a good reason we're going to have a shirt that says, I survived Not Okay Night. Our Friday night is called Not Okay Night, and it's just 50 people. Yep. The whole weekend, on Saturday is the main conference, and, there's going to be, up to 150 to 200 people there. But on Friday night, it's just 50 of us. And the reason we're doing that is because I know that strategically there are going to be some that have not been able to find that safe place, that are going to be able to walk in and just go, oh, my life, is completely, and you're right that we isolate when we're walking wounded through life. we isolate because we don't want to get bumped into because it just hurts too bad. And because people don't know what to say, Rachel, and because people don't know how to respond, and they just want to tell us that Romans 8:28, God's going to turn all things together for good. I do know that. I know he will. I know that is spiritually true, but it is not emotionally helpful.
And also, I don't need that coming out of your mouth right now.
Right. That is spiritually true, but it is not emotionally helpful. So I want to encourage somebody today that when they come to the Restore Conference, do we stand on God's word? Do we know that Romans 8:28 is absolutely a thing? And does he turn all things together for good? Yes. Yeah. But sometimes the good that comes out of it is just that we get closer to Jesus. It's sometimes that is the good that comes out of it, is that we are stripped of we can do life by ourselves, and God, I need you. And I so desperately need to walk closely with you because I don't know how to get through this life without a right perspective, that I'm never alone and that you can work through me. And I'm so grateful for this message, for what God has taught me. And it's crazy to me that I didn't even know grace this way until I lost my husband. Next Sunday is going to be 5 years that Anthony died. And Rachel, when I met my husband, we went strangers to married in 8 weeks. I know you know the story. Strangers to married in 8 weeks. And one of our very first dates, we were talking about the Lord. I didn't know him. I didn't know my butt from a hole in the ground scripturally, right? Like I knew nothing. And we're driving down the road and he gave me this scenario. The scenario of the Billy Graham and the axe murderer, right? And he said, all right, so let me give you a scenario. He said, the axe murderer is driving down the road. He's a bad guy. He's taken a lot of people's lives, and he, goes off the road. It's raining. He goes off the road. And before he hits the tree, he says something about Jesus. Are you there? Are you there? Yeah. You're still there. He prays and says, Jesus. And where does he go? And I said, well, hopefully he goes to heaven, right? Because he called out to Jesus, and he goes, right. And he goes, okay, well, driving down the road, Billy Graham's driving down the road. He saved all these people, brought all of them to Jesus. But before he hits the tree, he yells a cuss word. Where does he go? I said, oh, please tell me he goes to heaven. He goes, nope, he goes to hell because he died in his sins. And I'm like, oh, then I'm screwed. I am so, right? Like, these are the things that we're taught growing up, is people's understanding of God and what they think and what they heard growing up. And I love what you said in the beginning of this, was that it really comes down to God saying, will you just let me show you who I am? Mm-hmm. Will you just come into relationship with me and let me teach you who I am truly? Not what your daddy said, not what your husband told you. And I love my husband. He gave me a place in ministry. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know. I never questioned it.
Yeah.
And over time, there has just been these grace packages that I've had to open that I went, wow, Lord, I didn't know that I didn't know you.
Yeah.
And so I love how you opened tonight to say, I didn't know what I didn't know. And there's somebody here, they don't know that God is as good as he is. They don't know that God is so faithful and so loving, even when we are not. Mm-hmm. And that relationship is, there's a starting point, and then no one would go to an altar and say, I do, but then never talk to God again. So what we're going to talk about at the conference too is, how do you build relationship with a God that you can't see really, but how do you get it to the point where you can see him so clearly? Mm-hmm. And so somebody feels really behind right now tonight, but they're not, right? They're not. They're in process, and it should be beautiful. It shouldn't be doesn't need to be stressful. It doesn't need to be, I should be further along by now. It is literally, God, thank you for finding me. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to forget everything I know, and I'm just going to start over. I'm just going to start over getting to know you. So I want you to pray us out, however it is you feel the Lord would have you do. We're not necessarily going, everybody. We're still going to stay after Rachel goes. But I want her to just speak life into you, to pray. We have a lot that have been church hurt, a lot that do not know God for who he truly is. They know God for, the what Anthony said and what the mama said and all the things. But many are coming to really understand grace and relationship, and they're in the middle of their grief and they're shooting themselves to death. And I just want you to speak life over them, whatever God would have you to say. And then we're going to trust that they're going to come, and wherever they are in the country, they're going to get on a plane or they're going to get in a car, and they're going to trust that it's going to be worth it. Because it is a weekend full of a bunch of yous and me's. There's 2 other women that are going to be speaking into their life that are also full of their own testimony, their own story, their own angle. And I always say there is nobody that can walk into the Restore Conference and not identify with one of our people and walk out of there going, I am so fully seen. I am so fully seen. And there's unlimited ice cream. So I don't know what could be better, right? Like hope just tastes better with sprinkles. So that's what we're going to do. I want, and somebody's coming on right now that doesn't know. So let me say this real quickly. So it's Orlando, in September. I keep doing that because in my brain, I could see it. Orlando, September 11th and 12th. And then Savannah, September 25th and 26th. So the dates are right there. Mary just put them up. September 11th and 12th in Orlando, and September 25th and 26th in Savannah. It is going to be so worth it. You will leave transformed, and you will have the tools for your restoration project. You will have the tools. So speak into us, speak life into us, pray over us. And girl, thank you for speaking life into us tonight and just giving somebody hope that they're exactly where they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. God, we just thank you. We thank you for tonight, for the opportunity to have a conversation with people all over the world through these little boxes that we carry in our pockets, God. What an amazing opportunity that is. And I just thank you for the people who joined tonight. And I know that not a single person who was on this live stream was here by accident. I know that you prepared and coordinated and scheduled and timed everything divinely, Lord, so that they would be here and they would hear exactly the words that they needed to hear. And God, I just ask that that you plant those words in their hearts and you let them grow. And that they would experience you in a way that they never have before, that they would be given fresh revelation and understanding about you and your character and who you are and how you love them, that they might hear your voice for the first time, God, and that they would hunger for more of that. That you would continue to surround them with places and opportunities and people to just pour fuel on that fire and to continue to grow that seed that you planted tonight, Lord, and that you would grow in your relationship with them. God, I just ask that you would remove every obstacle and bring them all the resources that they need to be able to get into the doors for the conferences in September. If that's the next step that you would have for them, Lord, that it would be clear to them in their hearts, and that you would make a way, God. And we know that you can do that. We know that you're capable of that. We know that you are good to do that, God. And I believe that, and I pray blessing over all of that. I pray blessing over the transportation and the ticket site and just every single thing about the conference, Lord, that it would just be another way to bring hope and healing, and for people to encounter you and your love. And I just thank you for my friendship with Jen. I thank you for the ministry and the platform that you've given her. And I just pour blessing onto that, Lord, that it would continue to grow and she would be able to impact more people. And I just thank you for her willingness and her obedience and her heart for you, God. I pray that the rest of the call tonight goes well, and that you would bring the right words to Jen, anything else that she has on her heart to deliver to these people, and that, again, the right people would be here at the right time for it. And we just pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Girl, I'm so excited in my spirit. I am. It's just, the alignment is perfect, and it's just so God. And I love that. Did you say 15 years that we've known each other? Almost 15 years? Is that what you said? Somewhere around there? That's so cool. You
I
know,
know.
that's just the coolest thing.
Well,
And
I was thinking about it today. I was like, oh, I was legitimately 25 when I met her. Like 25, 26, something like that.
yeah, it's
It's
so
crazy.
cool. That's so neat. And I've all along, I have known that, and I've said it out loud, all of my ministry for 30 years is I have a platform to open the platform for other people who have a voice, who need to be heard, and God will bring me those people. And so it's been that He didn't just bring me people, and then it's been I've known you for 15 years, and for Michelle, who's going to be speaking and doing the purpose workshop on it, I've known her for 15 years, and it's just like it's phenomenal to watch. And then Samantha, and it's just phenomenal to watch. And so that also is an encouragement to somebody today who's in a hurry and who thinks that they've missed God or they're frustrated that something's not happening. And I'm not saying that it's 15 years away, but I am saying just stay the course and gather up all the goodie, because at some point God will tap you then to pour it out. And that's what you're going to be doing, is pouring out all of your wisdom, all of your love, all of the grace that God has taught you. And we can't wait for it. So Orlando on September 11th and 12th, and Savannah, Georgia, September 25th and 26th. I hope everybody will come. And the way that they find it, and they're asking, is therestoreconference.com, therestoreconference.com. And they'll go ahead and pin that. And guys, also follow Rachel Dawn. She does, you're going to find she has like probably 100 followers on TikTok, but she just downloaded TikTok in order to be with us. Her name is not Shanika, even though it says that right there. She is Rachel Dawn. So go follow her. And what we'll do is when you get off of here, if you will, jump back on as Rachel Dawn, if you're able to, for like 2 minutes, so that people can just see you and start following you. And then that will help you out. Because I'm sure we'll have you back on before the conference. Okay.
Yeah. And if anybody, I think it's okay to say this, if anybody's on Facebook and Instagram, I'm super active there. So you can go find me on both those platforms, and it's at Rachel Dawn Writes, like Writes.
Right.
That's
yeah. Rachel Dawn Writes. Awesome. Beautiful. Thanks for being with us. You did amazing. I'll talk to you soon, honey. Okay. Bye.